Back to you with this news still breaking. Hunter Biden found guilty on all charges in his federal case over misleading on a gun form. It's big news. It's big news for the man sitting in the Oval Office, the President of the United States, Joe Biden, his father. And with that, we'll bring in White House correspondent Gillian Turner. She's at the White House. What's happening there, Gillian?
Hi, Kaylee. Well, President Biden, as you mentioned, is here at the White House. We are actually expecting to hear from him, see him publicly on camera at 1:30 when he is headlining a gun violence prevention event, big event across town. So we are anticipating there is at least a chance he may address the verdict just handed down to his son. In the interim, we have a brand new statement issued by Ian Sams on behalf of the president himself. It says, as I said last week, I am the president, but I am also a dad. Jill and I love our son, and we are so proud of the man he is today. So many families who have had loved ones battle addiction understand the feeling of pride seeing someone you love come out the other side and be so strong and resilient in recovery. As I also said last week, I will accept the outcome of this case and will continue to respect the judicial process as Hunter considers an appeal. Jill and I will always be there for Hunter and the rest of our family with our love and support. Nothing will ever change that. It's notable, Kaylee, that in one breath in this statement, the president says he respects essentially the outcome in this case and then mentions the fact that Hunter's team is considering an appeal. It's also interesting that they mention an appeal at all at this particular moment, given we have not heard that from Hunter's own defense team. So it would seem that the White House is the first to put out an official comment confirming that Hunter is at least considering appealing the decision here. We have heard from the president at a couple of key moments on his son in the past. You may remember very famously back in 2020, he told Peter Doocy that his son had done nothing wrong. We have heard a couple of times in the last few months from Karine Jean-Pierre in the White House press briefing that the president has no plans to pardon his son. Nobody at the White House has just commented on record as to whether or not the president may consider commuting his son's sentence, something that we are now sort of standing by to try and learn as quickly as possible here. So again, we're probably going to be hearing from the president in about an hour from now if he is running on schedule. He is going to be speaking here in D.C. at a national gun violence prevention event. We will be keeping a close eye on that to see whether he addresses this verdict himself. We also have the White House press briefing coming up at 2:30. We anticipate a lot of questions at the podium from Karine today about this verdict. Back to you, Kaylee.
Will the president commute Hunter's sentence? That is a great question for the White House briefing room. So we will see if it is asked. Judge, you mentioned, we heard appeal there, and Julian highlighted the president's mentioning appeal, but you note some of these grounds of appeal have already been tried and rejected.
Well, one of the things that Hunter did was in December of this year, his lawyers filed a motion arguing that the gun case charge should be dismissed because possession of a firearm by a controlled substance addict is unconstitutional under the Second Amendment, citing that 2022 Supreme Court case, which, of course, is the New York Bruin case. And the Third Circuit denied that. Now, whether or not the Supreme Court this year comes out and says, we're going to take a look at that and decide whether or not something is rooted in history and tradition, which is a basis to continue it as a constitutional right, it exists there. But as Jonathan Turley said, and I think that we need to remember this, because going forward, everyone's going to say the Supreme Court still hasn't ruled on whether a drug addict can have a gun. This guy has been convicted of lying on a federal ATF form. So whether or not the Supreme Court goes forward and says, we're going to give everybody the right to have a gun, even a drug addict, which I find a little hard to buy right now, he still is different from the normal category of individual. He is a convicted felon who has lied for that purpose.
Kevin, we are less than 1 hour from President Biden giving remarks. Again, about an hour from when he learned his son is convicted. You've been in Biden world. What is happening now?
Well, certainly, I think the president is feeling the anguish right now of this decision, and we talked about this during the break. That this is a father that's worried about his son and relapsing, but he's also a president of the United States who has focused for a number of years, going back to his time in the Senate, on passing legislation that's going to stop gun violence in the streets, restrict the size of magazines, some of these assault weapons that are out there. So I think you can have two of these things be happening at the same time: a love of a father, a support of a father, a worry of a father. Hallie Biden threw out that gun not because she was worried about Hunter, using it in violence. She was worried about him taking his own life. And that now, there are more gun deaths by suicide in this country than by murder for the first time in a long time. So I think you can still see the White House talking about the scourge of gun violence now with this as the backdrop.
So, Kevin, how do you know that? Because when Hallie Biden both testified and the Washington Post did a really deep dive, she was looking for drug paraphernalia when she went through that truck. And she was shocked to find a gun and just knew it was trouble. And when you look at their text messages, she's not saying, I threw it away because I thought you'd kill yourself. She said, you need to get to rehab. And he said, this is not a game. Tell me where you hid it. And, of course, she'd taken it to a grocery store shopping center and put it in a trash bin. So I've not heard what you just said about the concern that Hunter might kill himself. I can tell you that it led to a problem with crime.
Certainly.
And maybe she had seen that forecast, but she was digging hard through that truck for drug paraphernalia.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's how she found the gun in the first place. I'm sure, and I've seen interviews that Hallie has given about the mental state of Hunter at the time, and her worry that he might use that gun on himself or some self-inflicted situation with that firearm.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.